Welcome back. So far, we have considered the norm linear space consisting of column vectors as well as matrix. Now, let us consider an important norm linear space consisting of functions, and it is very important norm linear space. Why? Because suppose I have some system, and what we have seen that if I will provide some kind of input, so input as a initial condition x0, and after that suppose that my output is xt, and this class of system I am telling that x2 equal to f tx, where x belongs to Rn, and here I have initial condition at t0 when I will start my experiment. At that time I have x0, and if you see this function f that map from, so time is always positive, Cartesian product x is in Rn, and suppose here since I am assuming that x belongs to Rn, so that will map back to this. Now if you see the solution of this, so if, and I have already several times talk about this, so solution of this xt is x0 plus integral 0 to t, by taking integral on both sides I can write the solution of this form f tau x tau into d tau. So this is the solution, and if you interpret this solution, this is nothing but some kind of function. So this is function. So obviously whenever I have certain kind of differential equation, then whatever space that is form of the solution of this differential equation, so this is the solution, that is the functional space, or one can also tell that a space consisting of functions. So for every initial condition I have one function. So whole space, since f is not specific, that is depending on the system, some specific system. So if I am choosing different system, so and different initial conditions, so I can capture the whole solution, and that is nothing but the space consisting of function. So in today's lecture I am going to talk about the norm vector space or non-linear space consisting of function, because we have already observed that in order to define a norm linear space we need two quantity. So first quantity I have to define the vector space and together with the norm. So in today's class I am very much specific. So this x is a space consisting of functions, and our goal, so our goal to define this is called nothing but norm in functional space, you can also tell. So that is the goal of today's lecture. And in the previous classes, we have already seen that in order to define norm, we have to show that three different property is satisfied. So I am going to check all three different properties whenever we are talking about the norm. So let us start with one simple example. So I am going to take example, and after, so this is somehow mathematical example. After that I will come to the dynamical system. So first example is continuous functions on a bounded interval, and we already know that interval is nothing but the subset of real number. So you can take the real line and cut one piece, that is called interval. So now let us try to define some continuous function. So consider a bounded interval and I am denoting that interval by a and b. So lower limit is a and upper limit is b, and that belongs to R. And let here I am going to denote all continuous function, denote the set of continuous function, and here I am assuming that continuous function f map from a to b to R. So when I have started the class, at that time I am assuming f belongs to Rn, so that is more general, but first I will start with the one dimensional, and after that I will move to the higher dimensional. So basically I am telling that CAB, so that is defined like this: function from a to b map to C, where f is a continuous function. So in this way we are denoting this set CAB, and I am assuming that since I have to define the vector space, so after specifying the space, we have to also talk about the operation in order to satisfy the property of vector space. So I am assuming that this space occupy CAB with the natural operations of addition and scalar multiplication. So whenever we are adding two functions, we have already observed in the part of vector space that we are defining the point-wise addition, and after that we are defining the scalar point-wise scalar multiplication. In this way we are defining the vector addition and scalar multiplication in the space of continuous function. And if we define like this, then it is possible to show that will form a vector space. So up to here we have formed the vector space. Now let us move to the second part. So, and after that, what we are assuming that we know that each function, because this is a space, so I have several functions. So each function f from C A to B is bounded, and I am assuming that maxima occur. If there is no maxima, then we will consider the supremum, and you already understood that what is meaning of supremum. So assume a maximum value, and I am assuming that maximum value is, so let that maximum value is like this, max fx, and x belongs to A and B. So here you can see that again, in order to define norm, I have taken help of the absolute value, because I have already told you that I have, whenever we are defining any norm, either norm for the matrix or norm for the column space, always primitive element is absolute value. So using one hardware I can generate any norm, just I have to interface with some kind of software program or some kind of program. So similar kind of things we have done here. Again, we are using the notion of absolute value, and we are calculating the maxima between x from this bounded interval, and after that we are picking the maximum value, and that I have defined as a norm. So before claiming this as a norm, we have to prove it, means we have to show all three properties of norm is going to satisfy. So let us see the properties. So we will verify that this defines a norm on this is continuous function, and that is that it satisfies the requirement of definition of norm. So here you can see that first point, that is very much clear, that since I have defined f infinity equal to max of absolute value, so I can quickly write that first it is clear that this quantity is always greater than 0 for all f that belongs to this, because first I am taking the absolute value, so already that is positive, so due to that reason this is obvious. And also it is possible to show also the function f equal to 0 belongs to CAB and satisfies that f infinity norm equal to 0. So f equal to 0, that is 0, because I am defining pointwise addition and pointwise multiplication, so 0 function also we are defining. And apart from this, on the other hand, if f infinity equal to 0 for some function, so if function is 0, then obviously this is 0. Now we are seeing on the other side, suppose that the norm is 0, then we have to show that function is also 0. So if norm in a space of function equal to 0 for some function that basically belongs to a and b, then the whatever definition we have proposed for the norm, then the definition of this shows that fx equal to 0 for all x belongs to a to b, and that is f equal to 0. So in this way we have verified the first property. And second property, if I scale function by alpha, so and I am defining pointwise multiplication, scalar multiplication, so obviously after taking norm, second property is also satisfied, so I am not going to check. Now let us try to check the third property. So now I am going to check the third property. So in order to check third property, let assume two function, that is third property is about triangular inequality. So I am going to assume two function from this. I am going to collect two function from the same space. Then for each x that belongs to AB, I can able to write like this. That is fx plus gx, and if I will take the absolute value, then that is like this, x plus gx, and if I will put maxima on both sides, then it is possible to show that that is nothing but f infinity plus g infinity, because this holds for all x belongs to AB, it follows that f plus g infinity is max over x belongs to A and B of fx plus gx, and in this way I am able to prove this. So in this way we are able to verify that whatever norm we have defined, that will satisfy the all three properties of norm, and this norm has some special name, so you can write in form of remark that this norm in function space is called, function space means the space containing of function, the supremum or maximum here. Whenever I have already told you that if maximum will not exist, then I am going to consider the supremum. So this norm has name as a supremum norm. So till now what we have observed, that if function map from some interval to R, means somehow a space containing just one dimensional function, then how to define the norm. So now let us try to generalize it. So before generalizing, again I will come to the our problem. So in whole system theory means either you can consider the electrical system, electronic system, mechanical system, or any class of system, finance. So I have certain kind of input and output. So I have this is some kind of system. We are giving some kind of input, and after that we are collecting the output from this system, and in this way there exists some kind of operator. So here some operator is sitting here, and that will produce signal like this, HU, something like this. So basically now let us try to see that. Means I am going to show you the significance of norm. So basically first we consider a system. So now I am going to talk in terms of input and output only. I am not considering the intermediate state. So I am just going to talk about input and output relation is represented by y equal to HU. So here you can write y like this, then this also become y. And here I am assuming that basically this y that going to belongs to Rp and u belongs to Rm. So, and I am also assuming like this, where H is some mapping or operator that specifies y in terms of u. So basically I am interpreting any system as a mapping or operator. So if I will give the input as a u, then finally that system operate on that input, and after that is going to generate some y. Now let us try to consider the possible, what kind of possible input I will apply to the system. So I am going to talk about the possibility of input now. So it means that I am going to apply some kind of signal to the system. So the input u belongs to a space of signals that map the time interval interval 0 to infinity, because I am assuming that ut is just function of time, into the Euclidean space. I am assuming that I have certain kind of, and we already understood what is meaning of Euclidean space, Rm. So I am assuming that this kind of things, u belongs to 0 to infinity and mapped to Rm. And now let us try to explore the possibility of this particular function u. So basically now what we are assuming that means we are going to see the examples, means whatever examples, possible examples. So examples are the space of piecewise continuous bounded function. So what we are assuming that function is not even if function is not continuous in the whole domain, but that is piecewise. If we cut function in several pieces, then that is continuous. So we will see this point on the next part of this course, when I will talk about the existence and uniqueness of solution, then how to define piecewise continuity, these kind of things I will come. So basically what I am telling, that now I have bounded function. So mathematically I can represent this like this. So whenever something is bounded, so I can assume that supremum exists, because supremum is more generalized than maximum. So for some interval it might possibly we have no maximum, but at least we have supremum. And in previous class I have already discussed about the supremum. So I have this class of function. Or another example is, and the space of piecewise continuous square integrable function. If you observe, in case of the column space, at that time, if we are defining the true norm, at that time we are taking the square. But here I have function space, so in this particular space I cannot, I have, means at each point I have certain kind of, you can assume that I have certain kind of column vector, because each time instant you map from interval to Rm. So basically at time t I have u1 to t, I have u2 t, umt, like that. So basically again I can define the true norm, and in order to define true norm I need the square. But here I have function is basically continuous, so I can define, I can capture using the continuous summation. So due to that reason one can use the piecewise continuous square integrable function, and that is ut t ut. And further I will correlate these kind of things with the norm. So I am assuming that this input either belongs to first one or belongs to this square integrable function. Now if I am assuming any system as an operator, then I have to interpret like this, that somehow if I measure the size of input, then I want to see the effect of that size to the system after getting the output. So somehow I am making some kind of relation between size of input and size of output. So first question is that how to define the size of a signal. So in order to define a size of any signal, the notion of norm comes into picture, because I have already told you that now our space is no longer one dimensional, so I have n dimensional. So and whenever I have something is continuous, so I have infinite many value. So due to that reason size is one of the important characterization. So now I am going to talk about size. So to measure the size of a signal, we introduce the norm function, and we are going to denote that norm like this. And again, whenever we are telling something is norm, then that should be satisfies three properties. And if you interpret that property of norm in terms of signal, then I can write like this. So I am writing because this is very good for knowing the interpretation. The norm of a signal is 0 if and only if the signal is identically 0 and is strictly positive otherwise. So that is the interpretation of first property of norm in terms of the signal or some kind of physical signal. Let us try to interpret the second property of norm. So what we are telling that scaling a signal results in a corresponding scaling of the norm, and that is I am telling that alpha u is alpha u for any positive constant alpha and for all u. So for all signal u, this kind of property is satisfied. So second property is about the scaling of the signal, and third one is the triangular inequality. The norm satisfies the triangular inequality. So, and we know that triangular inequality, so in this form, so I am going to extend that for a function. So u1 plus u2 for any signal u1 and u2, like this. So now let us try to help of this three property try to characterize the size of signal, and that size of signal is nothing but norm in the space of the function, or norm in the functional space. So I am going to write first one. So for the space of piecewise continuous bonded functions, the norm is defined as, so I am going to define the norm, and that is defined like u, and here I am using this kind of symbol L infinity, that is supremum, and that is ut, like this. And it is possible to show that all three properties are satisfied. Now I am not going to prove. And the name of this space and the space is denoted by L M, because what we have observed that this function u map from interval 0 to infinity to Rm. Due to that reason m comes into picture here, and here I have infinity. Similarly, for this I have taken two classes of input. So for second class, so for the space of piecewise continuous square integrable functions, we are assuming that function will satisfy this kind of property, piecewise continuous and also square integrable. The norm is defined by, so I have already told you that you can define norm in any way, provided that will satisfy the three properties. And in today's class I am writing that property in terms of the signal, but mathematical underlining mathematical things remains the same. So 2 I am defining here, and here square integrable 0 to infinity, and ut into dt. So using this symbol I am going to capture less than infinity. And again, if you see the space, so I am going to talk about, because after defining the norm, we are putting a space and norm together, and that is called non-linear space, is denoted by L to M. So this is the meaning. And again, if you check with this norm, then that will satisfy all three properties. So for clarity, let us so this is nothing but M, because again I am telling that from 0 to infinity that will map to M. So in this way I can define the space of piecewise continuous integrable function, and norm is defined like this. So now let us try to generalize. So same like means we are defining infinity norm, 2 norm, and after that we are talking about p norm. So same kind of things I can generalize for the functional space, or a space where function is going to lie. So more generally, the space Now I am going to define this space by LPM. For P I am going to take from 1 to infinity is defined as the set of all piecewise continuous functions that is mapped from this interval, so this is closed interval, to Rm such that, and again all three properties, whatever definition I am going to make, that should be satisfy all three properties. And obviously I am skipping the proof, just we try to understand the definition. So LP, in this way we are defining, and here again I have 0 to infinity, and this is like this, and after that I have to take 1 by P less than infinity. So in this way I can define the LP norm. So you can see that here, after defining the norm, we are always defining the space. So in all three places, first I am talking about the supremum, after that for the square integrable function, and after that I was talking about the generalization. So I am using one, in order to define the space, I am using subscript as well as superscript. So remark is like this: the let us first talk about the subscript. So subscript P in we are denoting like this: P and M refers to the type of P norm. So you can see that here I am writing P, it means that this is 1 by P infinity, then this is infinity norm. Whenever we are defining 2, then that is 2 norm, and used to define the space while the superscript M is the dimension of the signal. So in this way I can define. So this M is the dimension, and meaning of dimension is that if you see the definition of U, then that will map from 0 to infinity to Rm. So using superscript I am denoting that particular dimension. So and after that using subscript, So this is P, so I am defining the norm. Now one important remark I am going to tell here, that is, and I am going to write in form of note. So what we have observed during this definition, so note that the norm, whatever norm we are defining, used in the definition, like this we are defining for any P that belongs to 1 infinity to infinity. So in norm linear space I have basically a linear space together with norm. So I am denoting norm like this, can be any P norm in Rm. So basically, lastly I am again moving to the column space. So you can see that I can define this norm be any P norm, and I have already seen that whenever I have column space, then how to define the norm. So let us first come to the example, and after that we will interpret. Then I think that become more clear to you. And the number P is not necessarily the same in the two norms. So basically what we are telling, that for example, we define the L infinity space with different norm. So either I can define L infinity space with like this, supremum t greater than equal to 0, and I will just take one norm, and meaning of this is nothing but norm in the column space or Rm space. So at one time instant I will detect the function, and after that I will calculate the supremum, and this kind of supremum I will take for all possible value, and then I will define norm. Or I will define norm like this also, U L infinity supremum. So supremum I will always take, because I am going to define the infinity norm, but this norm I can vary. So I will take two norm. Or another possibility is like this, U L infinity, and after that I will define supremum like this. However, if you see the problem, then commonly we are taking the two norms. So try to see these three different kind of definition, then you are able to understand the concept precisely. So actually what we are telling that I have some function ut which map from t is here from 0 to infinity, and that is going to map to Rm. So u1t, utt, and after that umt. So if you select some particular time interval, suppose that if you select some time t1, so at t equal to t1, you can see I have this kind of situation. So I have ut at t equal to t1, that is nothing but u1 t1, ut t1, and here um t1. So this will generate some kind of numbers. So this each quantity is some kind of real number. So this is also some kind of real number, this is also some kind of real number, because this is real valued function. So all are certain kind of real number. So now I have some matrix or some kind of column. Now I have this is nothing but some kind of column vector, and I have to do this kind of things for all possible t. So at each and every time instant I have this kind of column vectors. So I have different numbers each. So if I will see again, let us again talk about another time, then things become more clear. So suppose now I am going to move to the second time. So at t equal to t2, again I have ut at t equal to t2. So at that time I have again this number. In this way, if you interpret the space, functional space, that is nothing but I have this kind of things. So ut is filled with something like u1 t1, u2 t2, ut t2 t1, and this is um, because m number of space. So like this, another vector at the just next instant ut2 to t2. So this is u1, and I have tm like this. So I have infinite many entry because time is continuous. So up to 0 to infinity I have infinite many entry, but each entry is nothing but I have certain kind of column vectors. So this space I can also interpret as a some space containing the column vectors, and I know that how to define the norm in the column vector. So in order to define norm in the column vector, I can either use the notion of the, so here I can define norm by L1, L2 and LP. We have already learned during the example when I was talking about the column space and how to define the norm in the column space. And due to this reason, now let us go back to the definition again. So due to this reason, now you can see here that since in left hand side I have certain kind of a space which contains the function, and I can also interpret that functional space by some kind of column vectors. But now I have infinite entry, so dimension is infinity basically in terms of column vector, but still I can define the norm u1 norm same like the column space. That is, again, in order to define u1 I will take the supremum, and finally after that we have to again take the supremum. Similarly u2 I have to take all signal, do a square, and after that I have to take a square root, and after that we have to calculate the supremum. So each time instant ti I have to do this kind of process. Due to that reason, definition is looks like this. So whenever students are seeing these kind of definition, then they have little bit difficulty to visualize why they have why people has defined norm like this. But now I think that things become more transparent to you. However, most of time people are defining L2 space with two norm in Rm. So let us just write this point, and after that I will close the today's lecture. So remark is that however, and it is common to define the L2 space with two norms. So I am talking about a square integrable function, and these kind of concept is very much useful in almost each and every area of the engineering. So you have to understand the three different kind of norms. So basically I have separated this lecture in three different parts. So if you see the pattern of the next few lectures, then what I have done, first I will define the norm linear space, and after that I have start taking of the column vectors, and using absolute value, notion of absolute value, I have defined the norm, and after that I will move to the space where vectors is represented in form of matrix, and at that time I have defined norm in two different way, that is induced norm, and after that using the help of absolute value, and after that we are also seeing the geometrical definition of induced norm. And in this part of the course, actually I have talked about the norm in the space where function is going to lie, somehow the functional space. And in order to define this norm, again I am going to take the help of the norm of the same kind of norm whatever we have defined in column space, because we are interpreting some function as the collection of infinite number of column vectors. So in this way we are defining the norm in the function space, and we know that the solution of differential equation is nothing but that is a function. So whenever we are defining any system using the differential equation either linear or non-linear, then somehow I have to understand the concept of this norm in order to understand the size of input and output, because most of time we are measuring the size of input signal, measuring the size of output signal. At that time these characterization are very important. So with this discussion I am going to close the today's lecture, and after that in next lecture I am going to see the application of this norm to define the stability. Stability means we are talking about bonded input is going to generate the bonded output. In that term I am going to define, and in the later part of this course I will talk about the stability of more general class of system. So thank you very much.